What if the secret to having more isn't doing more, but needing less? Today's guest, Claire Berger, is a stand up comic turned philosopher, and she's flipping the script on success, authenticity, and the relentless pursuit of more. If you've ever asked yourself, is this it? Or better yet, is this enough? This episode is your permission slip to stop chasing and start living. Let's dive into a deeply honest, wise, and humorous conversation about how to get more by living with less. Welcome to Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan. I'm Dan Peters, psychologist and leadership coach. This show is all about bringing hope, connection, awareness, and wisdom through meaningful conversations that inspire us to be better versions of ourselves and have a positive impact on humanity. This is your space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with who you are, what you care about, and who you want to be. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. And today we are talking about how much is enough with Claire Berger. For over 4 decades, Claire has been a comedian, improv actor, and writer. She began her career in Chicago with The Second City and then went on to the stages of Los Angeles, earning acclaim as a warm-up comedian on over 65 of our favorite sitcoms, including Seinfeld, Murphy Brown, and Mad About You. Also, Claire was the first comedian on HGTV to be hired. We all know the show, Fantasy Open House. Transitioning from the sitcom sound stages to the corporate boardrooms, and Claire has had many pivots. She helped businesses have fun while getting the job done with her curated events and book called Funny Works, 52 Ways to Have More Fun at Work, 52 Ways to Have More Fun in Life. And now, what we're diving in deep today, her new interactive memoir, How Much is Enough? Getting More by Living with Less. Claire, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And how's that for a pivot? I'm like pivoting so much you think I'd be dizzy by now, but that's my life.
You have pivoted. I mean, I only just, of course, hit a few of the things that you have done. And well, that's actually what I was thinking about in the beginning of our conversation is from improv to comedy to writer, now to philosopher and self-help guide and guru. Like this is like, it's just crescendoing.
Doesn't it seem organic though? I
Yeah.
mean, you start
Yeah.
entertaining drunks on stage as a comedian, and then you move into corporate America. And then I kind of rolled it all together and then reflected back on my life. Writing a memoir takes some life experience. And at 68 years old, this is the perfect time to write this book. I couldn't have written it a day earlier. I really needed this whole body of life experience to really, I think, do the very best job that I could do on this.
When the topic came to you, and we're gonna talk about the origin story of this book in COVID, did you think it was going to be a memoir? Did you know that is what it was going to end up being, or at least it's memoir plus?
Yeah, it really is memoir plus, which really confounds bookstore owners because they just don't know where to put it. Yeah, I guess I did want to do a memoir, but I always wanted it to be offbeat, because of my life and my trajectory, personally and professionally. I knew that it wouldn't be a typical memoir. And then I realized I'm not famous enough just to, unleash a memoir out in the world. I really wanted to make it more of an interactive experience for the reader. And that's I don't know this genre exists, but I think an interactive memoir is a great way to kind of pull the reader in and involve the reader in my journey that will hopefully help you, the reader, to examine your own journey.
You're not sure if this genre exists, and it makes me reflect on your life now that I know it so well by having read about it. While you were always in certain fields like drama, theater, radio, like journalism in college as it relates to the news, you've always done things your own way, right? So like you were never about a genre. I mean, it's like your life is about I would like to say at times realizing, like finding out that there are actually genres you didn't know about growing up. Like, wait, like people eat this stuff and wear this stuff. And like, I had no idea. So part of your life was like figuring out there are genres. And then it seems like every time you stepped into one to try it on, you're like, no, I'm going to do it this way. I'm not going to
Yeah.
do it that way.
Yes, absolutely, thank you, for acknowledging that because it is a real point of pride for me to know that I never really walked the straight and narrow, and I think if I represent anything to my children, my grandchildren, my readers, it's that, reinvention is not only possible, it's probable, and
Mhm.
so what are you going to do to stay facile and open and excited about the
Right.
possibility, that
Yes.
change is a good thing, you know?
Yes, change is a good thing and to be open to possibilities. And as you say, now at 68, you have changed and pivot. And so, like for everyone listening, so many times, everyone thinks it's a cliche. It's never too late. It's not a cliche. I mean, like it's not. It's real, and particularly in the world we are living in now, where long gone are the days that you do the same thing for decades and decades. I mean, even people who want to don't have that opportunity anymore with all the changes that are happening in industry. It's like
Right.
this is part of what we are all living with, and we say this to our kids, right, to young people, like, hey, you can always pivot, but it's not just for young adults, it's for everyone throughout the
Every
lifespan. Yeah.
everyone, and you hear about so many people, whether it's, Mel Robbins or Jay Shetty or all these other real thought leaders that really came to their career success relatively late in life, and
Hmm.
after a lot of different journeys. I mean, Jay was a monk,
Right.
I was a
Right.
stand-up, same difference, right?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, you just never know how the road's gonna take you, and I think that's
Hmm.
one of the most beautiful aspects of life if you're open to straying off the path, right?
Right. Right. So that will take us to when we all were pushed off the path,
Mhm.
with COVID. We
Yeah,
were all completely pushed off the path, and that got you from Los Angeles to Brooklyn.
yeah,
And here you are in a pool with your designated time to swim your
right,
like your designated lane at the designated time to
right.
swim a designated amount of time and feeling good about yourself. And then things change. So tell everyone, because as I was like reading about this, it made so much sense. It made so much sense, and we could apply it to so many other parts of life when things like this happen.
Well, and also, like, how what a great, I think, example of how to just stay open to the possibility of what your life could unfold into, you know? As you say, Dan, it was, I just moved here, was trying to make friends, thought I'm going to join the Y because who doesn't want to be friends with me in a bathing cap and a soggy tank suit? I mean, that's just ripe for conversation. I hop into the pool, I start doing my 30-minute lap and feeling really good about it, getting into that groove. The pandemic protocol lifts, I can swim as long as I want. So, what am I doing as I'm doing my laps? I'm judging myself. I'm asking myself, why are you only swimming 30 laps? I mean, 30 minutes. You could swim more laps. You could be burning more calories. Then I thought to myself, no, actually, I'm a happy 30-minute swimmer. I'm a happy blue skier. I am, very satisfied with where I'm at as an athlete, as a person. Can't 30 minutes be enough? And as I was swimming these laps, I started thinking about all the other aspects in my life where I'm challenging myself on the concept of enough. How much is enough? And with every lap, it was like, how much is enough food? How much is enough travel? How much is enough family? Sex, love, time, life. And it all sort of unspooled from me. I couldn't wait to dry off and go home and start writing. And that's how the book
Wow. It was
was
just
born.
a
Yeah.
download. It was a total download, right? Like
Yes.
you just it all just came to you right there. And I do love how the book is it's by chapters on all of these different topics. So we get to focus on how much is enough health, how much is it, as you said, how much is food, sex, and you're tying your life experiences through all of these, um, and weaving them in. And it's the life experience that you've had it's so rich, and it comes from adversity, times of adversity when you were younger, when you didn't even know it was adversity, right? And I'm speaking to your mom who
Sure.
had depression, mental health issues, and eventually a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, then probably manic depressive disorder.
Mhm.
Um, and and then your husband, your love from college, and dealing with addiction issues and Al-Anon. So I want to dive into all this, but this is all to serve this up as how much these experiences created the wisdom and the resilience that
Mhm.
you have taken forth with you.
Thank you. Yes, and I think the open heart.
Mm,
Because I do think all of us are an amalgam of the good and bad in our lives. And listen, how do we define bad? When I was a child, moving around a lot was really, really upending and really challenging and really hard for me socially and interpersonally. I never would have become a stand up if I hadn't had that foundation of having to, hit the ground running every couple of
mhm,
years in my life and not be afraid to talk to strangers. And also to develop a sense of humor because I knew I wasn't going to be the smartest or the prettiest or the most athletic. So where was my lane? And it was
mhm,
always making people laugh. So I
mhm.
figured, okay, that's how I'm going to weasel my way into every new social group that I encountered during my childhood, and it's has served me throughout my life. This
When did
book
you
is
realize that? When did you realize that
oh so
that
young.
worked? Yeah.
So young, because let's face it, things were pretty dark in my family home with growing up with a mother who was mentally ill. You never really knew from one day to the next what you were going to encounter. And I was very independent in a very young age because I was one of four. And quite frankly, we were more than my mother could care for. And my dad was your typical 60s dad, earned the living and didn't really feel like he had to do much else. And he was a good guy. I love my dad very much, but he wasn't really present in a day-to-day parenting kind of way like, dads
Mhm,
are today. So I had no other choice but to establish some sort of independent resilience. And that was from a very young age through a sense of
mhm,
humor. And I stress to anybody that wants to talk about the power of humor, it is one of the most powerful communication tools we can have no matter what we do for a living. If you
mhm.
can make someone laugh, you're disarming them, you're giving them a whole other category in listening and comprehending, and I think it's just a beautiful communication tool. I really do.
And a coping mechanism, as you
Oh,
also
yes.
talk about, right? And
Oh, yes,
it's been
for
a topic
sure.
on other shows as well. Is it's coping, and of course, we don't want to just laugh our way through everything and be in complete denial and repression about life. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking
No.
about how laughter is a way that makes everything lighter
Mhm.
and in the moment better, and we know it has physiological positive
Right.
um, aspects in our bodies, mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
So you graduated high school at 16. So from what you just said, I'm thinking you're like, I cannot wait to get the hell out of here. Like
Mhm.
I need to launch. Was there an aspect of
I
that?
yeah, I mean, that started at 4 when I
Wow.
scammed my way into kindergarten because I needed to get out of
Yes.
the
Tell
house.
them tell them about this. Okay, yeah, you're age 4 and you
Okay, I
scammed
was a
the admissions
liar.
director. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes. I had my mother read the same picture storybook to me every night so I could memorize every word and where she turned the pages, so I could convince the kindergarten school principal that I could read, because he told my mother, "I can't admit a four-year-old unless she could read." Well, I totally scammed my way because that's how bad I wanted to get out of the house, and I actually love school, I
Mm,
really love school, and I knew that that would be a portal for me to really explore all of my,
mm,
let's call it eccentricities. So, school was always
yeah.
really important to me. And, being uprooted from school was very, very disruptive to me.
Mm,
But I also feel like it kind of created this sort of patchwork educational experience that was the foundation for my patchwork
right.
career, right?
Right. Right.
It was just more of the same.
And here we all think that the turbo overachievement, overfocus, race to nowhere schools have started, in the last 20 years with our new economy and new high pressured stakes testing and workforce and all that. But look at this,
Yeah.
it was back then. Like you have to be able to read at 4 to get into our prestigious academically accelerated program.
Yeah, yeah, and by
Yeah.
the way, I didn't learn how to read, like, I
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
follow all of the predictive, perfectionistic rules of life. Never did, never
No,
have, and never
no.
will. I always found the side doors in every opportunity to move in an unusual direction. In college, I didn't like any of the majors, so I wrote my own. And
Mhm.
that major that I created in public and fine arts performance at Illinois State is executed and used to this day as a conventional standard degree that is so much more practical for a performer going out in the world, because
Mhm.
you're going to have radio experience, television, journalism, writing, production. Who doesn't need that when you enter the world as a performer? You've got to have 8 side hustles or you're not going to be able to pay your rent.
Mhm.
So I found my college degree actually super beneficial to this day. I think about how it prepared me for so many pivots, because
Mhm.
nobody, like you said, Dan, nobody does one thing anymore. My dad
No.
worked at Motorola for 34 years. I think that's the last generation, honestly,
Yeah.
of people. I mean, you pivoted. We
Yes.
we all we all
Yes.
it's a beautiful dance, right?
It is a beautiful dance, and I want to acknowledge I want to acknowledge well, I'll acknowledge my own, and then I wanna hear your experience. Pivoting also comes with angst and self-doubt and worry, like, am I going to be good enough? And yeah, I was could do this, but can I do that? And what will people think? And what if it doesn't work? If I don't achieve this when I achieve that? And it takes a lot of courage. I think some people just kind of fly into it, and you might be more like that, but I want to acknowledge it takes courage to pivot.
And you just use the word enough. Am I good enough? And,
Yes.
by
Yes.
literal description, good enough is actually enough. And I
Mhm.
guess one of my goals with this book is to encourage readers to be in acceptance. And by that, I don't mean to be unambitious. At one of my events, someone raised their hand and said, I really struggle with the concept of good enough because I want to strive towards excellence. I want to be the best I can be. So, how, Claire, do you balance the concept of ambition with good enough? And you know what I did?
Mm.
Held up the book. Because listen, I wouldn't have been able to write this book
Right.
had I not been ambitious and disciplined and focused. This book took me 2.5 steady years and
Mhm.
not doing a whole lot else to get this book done and out in the world. And I would say I had enough discipline,
Yes.
ambition, and
Yes.
drive to get it done. I didn't need it to be a New York Times bestseller. I did not write it to become a millionaire. And
Mhm.
anybody that thinks that writing a book will get them there is seriously cuckoo.
No, no.
But that's just not how it works. So
Yeah.
I had a higher purpose,
Yeah.
and that purpose was good enough for me to feel very accomplished
Oh,
to
I
this
love
day
that.
as an author.
Okay, you had a higher purpose, right?
Mhm.
So first of all, purpose-driven, anything we do purpose-driven, it blows through all of the confines, the constraints, all the
Expectations.
expectations. So that's
Yeah.
one, and then 2, making it good enough. And so I think of the a lot. So this is a question for everyone. How much is enough? It is a particularly difficult question for people who tick towards the perfectionistic side of life. I am a perfectionist in recovery, and I know many. I've worked with many, and that question that you got is this essential question of what many in the field think about. Well, it's split that there's positive perfectionism, there's negative perfectionism, or all perfectionism not good because it's all based on a fear of failure and not enoughness. And then they're
Mhm.
striving for excellence. And the difference is with perfectionism, you are afraid to fail. With striving for excellence, you are failing all the time on the way to being the best version of yourself. So I think your answer really fit into that audience member was you are practicing good enoughness while striving for excellence. They're not mutually exclusive.
That's right. That's right. And the 2 words that I just don't subscribe to here is failure and perfectionism. Because
Mhm.
I don't think failure, I mean, yes, of course, it's a word in the dictionary and it's a word that we use in our life, but I see, my marriage of 30 years ended. Is that a failure?
Mhm.
Or is that a reckoning and an acknowledgement that I had had enough, that I didn't want to represent love like that to my children anymore, who were well into their teens? and understood exactly what was going on in our family. I don't see that as a failure. Maybe on paper, because I'm divorced, my marriage, quote unquote, failed. But I just never even ever thought about it like that way, Dan,
Mm-hmm.
because to me, I
Yep.
learned so much from it. I gained so much knowledge. Our family reinvented. I am so close to my children. They're the best people I know. I raised one perfectionist and one artist who always considered himself the square peg in the round hole of school. And I'm so happy to tell you that as fully launched, sane, happy, healthy adults, they're killing it out in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they hold jobs that didn't even exist when they were in college. So I just can't stress enough that we are who we are as we come into the world, but what we do with all of this is truly up to us. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just a marvel to watch and see, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to our children.
I think, yeah, I think we need to do something with the word failure, right? We have such a success failure binary
Yeah,
culture. Like, did you succeed or did you fail? And
right.
life is not like that. But these are the things that starts in school, right? Like, what's your
Yeah,
grade? Did you
yeah,
fail? Did you make the team? Oh, you didn't make. Oh, you failed. Like, it's this word. Oh, you failed to make the gold team.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so,
yeah,
like, let's move it aside. We know that perfection is the enemy of good. There's so many wonderful sayings, and it's like, how can we help people get rid of that perfection, get rid of that idea of failure when all of this thing that we call life is experience. It's all
right.
it's
Yes,
experience.
yes. And expectation is about somebody else. It's not about you. It's somebody else's expectation of who you are, what you should be, where you should be in your life. And I would have to borrow from the Buddhist tenet of what other people think of you is none of your business.
Mhm.
And if you can
Yeah.
really work that and
Yes.
really think about like what is important to me,
Right.
how do I want to feel successful in the world, not how you think I should be successful in the world,
Mhm.
then man, I really got a leg up. I got a leg up in life.
How much of this is a tough question, I know, but how much of this is your constitution, sort of like who you are, how you came into the world, and where does it intersect with when you finally like you got it, you're like, you know what? F this game. I'm going to
Yeah.
play the way I want to play. It.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we all know that mental illness is genetic. There's no question about it. All you have to do, if you question it, is to look at my mother's family tree. She was one of four, and everyone in her family deeply suffered from mental
Mhm.
illness. So I knew what the DNA was
Mhm.
as soon as I was old enough to really understand how ill my mother was and her family tree. So I think I did instill certain coping mechanisms to maintain a level of health and happiness
Mhm.
that I quite frankly see my siblings struggle with to this day. And they're all in their 60s.
Mhm.
And it breaks my heart sometimes. I'm not saying I'm living a better life. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I made different choices than my siblings. We all grew up in the same house under very different circumstances, right? Because my younger brother had the time and the financial stability to be an only child when my father was doing much better financially. So he had a different dynamic, but he still struggled
Mhm.
and continues to struggle as a result of being raised in a house with mental illness. So I think that for me, vigilance is super important. And part of vigilance for me is self-reflection and practical optimism. And practical optimism comes from, I think, a foundation in improv and comedy,
Mhm.
where in improv, the huge number one rule is yes and. You don't deny the reality on stage, right? If someone says we're on the moon, you're on the moon. You got to be on the moon. So that really, to me, is such a life skill. When my dad was really struggling late in his life with dementia, if he called to tell me there was a monkey in the tree, yeah, I'll come right over, take a look at that monkey. I was not going to disagree with him, correct him, or ever start the sentence with the word remember, because let's face it, if he could remember, he would have, right?
Mhm.
So to me, I feel yes, it's a coping skill. Yes, it's a choice, but it's a life force for me that I will maintain until I die. No
Mhm.
question.
That's what I get the life force, where somewhere along the way you decided, both from survival and resilience, and also of, I think, exuberance, because you have a lot of exuberance in your life,
Yeah.
is that you're going to do it your way. Like
Yeah.
you're going to do what speaks to you. And it seems like you got there so much younger than most people do. I mean, we as we go through life, we're trying to become more and more of our, hopefully, our authentic selves, realizing what the societal programming is, how it impacted us, and push back against it as we seek to be ourselves, like our true selves. And this is something clearly that you get, I think, better and better and better at throughout your life. But because of these circumstances that you talk about, you got there. It forced you to get there earlier, I think, than many.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, yeah, no, I really appreciate you saying that. I absolutely agree with you. And I think it circles back to the concept of how much is enough. There's 22 chapters you can read in no particular order. And one of the best compliments I got is a guy came up to me and said, "It's my favorite bathroom read."
Mm.
And I thought, listen, anything gets you off your phone in the toilet, that's just
Right,
fine with me. But the
right.
fact that you can open the book and say, okay, this is the chapter that speaks to me.
Hmm.
This is really what I focus on. And how much is enough? The last two chapters were time and life. I mean, those are heavy topics. And there's also really fun, lighthearted things in here too. But how much is enough? Time is, I think, really something it should be required reading for everybody, because let's face it, we're only here as long as we're here. And, whether it's COVID or war or whatever, we encounter in our life, we have to face the fact that it's not always in our control. So what is in our control? What can we use to impact positive change and make every day impactful and
Yes, yes,
grateful, grateful for
yes.
sure,
We're speaking the same language, and it's so much easier to say than it is to do, and that's why talking about this is so important.
Yeah.
I think people think like hashtag grateful, hashtag gratitude, and I think people think like, okay, this is just some gimmick. Well, everything becomes one of those things. But the essence of all of these things, that is about positivity, and about appreciating the present, and about being grateful, are really it's the ancient keys of living, right? It's
Oh,
like there
without a doubt.
we all like, when I get here, when this happens, when my kids grow up, when I get a promotion, when I'm able to, and there's no guarantee for anything
Right.
except right now.
Well, I was just flashed while I was listening to you, the whole concept of wherever you go, there you are.
Yep.
And if you're missing the now by projecting too far into the future or lamenting the past, quite frankly. We cannot undo what's been done. We can only learn from it, feel productive and grateful, not resentful or angry. I always say, living with anger is like, taking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It's just
Yes.
not beneficial to our overall
Yes.
health. And
Yes.
same with worry. Worry's like praying for something that you don't want to happen. I refuse
Mhm.
to live with anger and worry in my heart. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I am inhuman. I get mad. I feel frustrated. I feel resentful. I do not let it fester. And
Mhm.
I stop and I ask myself, what are the benefits of it? And the answer is always there are zero benefits. There are zero benefits.
0.
Yeah.
Okay, you just referenced the AA, one of the AA, sayings, right? Resentment is taking a poison pill and hoping the other person dies, which makes me think of your Al-Anon experiences, and
Mhm.
how that has really played an important part in your life
So
and
big.
your living.
So big. I cannot say enough about just the beauty and the wisdom of 12 step in any aspect of your life. And I'm so thrilled that there are so many kinds of 12-step opportunities for people, because I think a lot of people, when they first hear 12-step, they're like, well, I don't drink or I don't do drugs. Well, those aren't my problems, but I was married to someone who had those problems. And if I didn't have Al-Anon, I wouldn't have understood what my role was in my husband's addiction, in my family dynamic, in my self-esteem and the way I move through the world. And I just feel so strongly that, honestly, the steps are my spiritual base.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised Jewish. I'm a proud Jewish woman. I found that to be a helpful foundation because I do believe in sort of internal spirituality, not
Mm-hmm.
external spirituality. So for me, the steps seemed like a completely logical next spiritual home.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said, "Why do you still keep going? You've been single for 18 years now. Like that's the old news." And I said, "No, because the 12 step means you bring that knowledge and that journey to somebody new
Mm-hmm.
that's just starting, and that's part of the program, is that
Mm-hmm.
you remain available for people that are just starting the journey today.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that's been on this journey knows that first step is brutal. It's a tough one. And you need all the support that you can around you to make it to
Mm-hmm.
the second day, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And I was just, right as you said that, I was thinking of the first step and how it applies to all of us, regardless of our thoughts about religion, spirituality, addiction. Surrender.
Yeah,
And surrendering to, they say the higher power, which can be anything, whatever you believe. We grasp on to the way things are supposed to be in our day, in our life. We worry about what is going to happen, whether it's with our kids or with our spouse or with our jobs or our family members, and we have so little control. Like it's a myth. It's like it's such a myth. Like we humans, because of just the angst of being human and all the uncertainty of being human, we have created systems externally and internally to help us feel safe. So this is what we do as humans, people. This is no like judgment. And yes, and if we can surrender to the idea that all we can control is what's going on within us, around us, and each day, while yes, you plan for the future, but that's different than worrying about the future.
that's
Like
right.
like it's this whole different shift, and ease can slip away, even though initially it feels more anxiety provoking to think about the lack of control that we have.
But that's a flip too. Like that's a flip switch too, Dan. I think at a certain point, and I knew that I was truly like moving in the right direction when I relinquished control.
Hmm.
When I really realized, listen, I can feed and clothe my kids, I can get them to the doctor. I can't control their inner lives. I can't make their personal decisions for them. I just have to be there to love them through whatever they encounter. But there's struggle in every step of everybody's life. And if we don't go through that struggle, and this is the toughest thing for a parent to watch their kids struggle. I mean, my son didn't walk for 6 months. He had this mysterious, very debilitating form of rare arthritis. And I don't wish that for any child. And yet I know my son is so much deeper, so much self examined, so much more authentically himself because of that trip to Africa, because of the people that he met there, because of what happened to him as a result when we came home. Again, don't wish that on anybody, but I'm
Right.
so grateful that my son was able to take that experience and have it manifest in such a profound
Right.
burst of growth and
Right.
introspection and maturity, quite frankly.
Yeah, and that it was a beautiful and rough story and a beautiful story, which led him there. And what I want to go to is continue with is this human condition we have where we we don't want things to go wrong. We don't want to feel pain and discomfort, and then multiply all of that times two with our children, and what then ends up become what's called all these different things, from helicopter parenting to snowplow parenting, and right, there's a million words now or phrases. And the irony is, if we, all of us listening here, if we think about many of the toughest experiences of our lives, they were the defining ones. They were the
Yes, yes,
defining
yes.
ones. I think about when people ask me, I had a very difficult time in my mid to late 20s. And when people say, well, what was that like for you? And I said, it was like the worst experience that I never want to have again, but I am
Yeah,
so glad that it happened. Like
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
combination of describing, because I grew so much through that difficulty.
I mean,
So
I'll
it's,
never
yeah.
forget, my 15-year-old son in a wheelchair looking up at me and go, "Mom, doesn't it just suck that we do our best growing when we're in the most pain?"
Oh,
And I was
wow.
just like, like
Wow.
where did that come from? And I never forgot it, and neither did he. And it is the rule that I live my life by.
Hmm.
So no, I don't want anybody to have pain in their life. And I also want you to grow and deepen. And so you have to. You have to,
Yes.
you know? And it's
Yeah.
that John Lennon quote that I love so much, everything's okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Mm.
That to me, it's like, just keep going, keep moving through it. You're going to get to the other side. And you tell people that are new in 12 step because they cannot see through their own pain and fear and anxiety. Look at, I made it through. You can make it
Mm.
through. Like, we can get it through. And the thing about this book that I'm so proud of is that I tell very deep, very dark truths. And I also shed so much light and humor on things that I think traditionally people don't see that humor has a place in. And circling back to what we were saying earlier, like, yes, you're going to go through pain, but you will also laugh harder at things you never thought you could laugh at in your life when you're going through adversity.
Yes. Ah, so much wisdom. So much
Oh,
wisdom.
thank you.
Wisdom bombs coming. Um, there's another something that I also wanted to hit on, because you are such a role model for women,
Thank you.
uh, with body positivity. Um, and it's throughout. It's throughout. So for those of you who don't know Claire, she's tall, and she was always tall, right?
Yes.
You grew
Yeah.
early, so not only are you going to new school
Yeah.
every couple years, you're like heads above your peers.
Yep.
The clothes didn't fit
Never.
because they didn't, and you didn't know fashion was
Still
a
don't.
thing until
Yeah.
you did know
Still
that fashion
don't.
was a
Yeah.
thing, right? Right. So what can you share to everyone about accepting, and even and your chapter on, how much is enough sex, and it's so wonderful because you talk about your body, and I mean, you talk about your body throughout in a way that you've accepted it, and you're
Hmm.
positive about it,
I
and
am.
you carry it in a way that those who you're with love your body too,
Yes, and
because
they're
you
out
do,
there.
because
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, they're out there. Yeah, I mean, I wanna be the healthiest that I can be every single day of my life. That definition of health is mine and mine alone. What you consider health or what you consider a healthy body bears absolutely no meaning or resemblance to what I believe. I consult with my doctors. I'm not living in a bubble. I care very much about health and safety. I have a 3 and 7-year-old granddaughters that are looking and listening very closely at everything I do. I have a daughter that I am keenly aware of is still looking to me for feminine awareness, self esteem, and guidance. And so it behooves me to put my very best foot forward every day and feel as good about myself as I can feel every day for them as well as for me.
Mhm,
And it's not hard to do.
mhm.
The toughest part is to not get sucked into all the social media and
Right.
the expectations that people have about how we are supposed to look at any age and stage in life. When I decided to let my hair go gray, my children were terrified. They're like, "You're so young, it's going to make you so old." I never felt younger and more authentic than when I
Mhm,
finally got rid of the
mhm,
every 3 week dying nightmare that I had to do to maintain the illusion that I looked young. I mean, I look and feel younger today with a head full of gray hair than I have felt in my whole younger life.
mhm.
So I just really fly in the face of preconception about the aging process, about women in sexuality, because I think, it's such a bunch of crap that women's sex drive diminishes. I just don't, I won't stand for it. I don't agree with it. I think it has everything to do with your partner
Mm-hmm.
and your own self-esteem.
Yeah.
And with those two intact, sky's the limit for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy yourself,
Mm-hmm.
enjoy your body, and feel great about who you are, because it's all you got.
Yeah.
Right? It's all,
Yeah.
this is it. This is my vessel. This is what
Yes.
I have. This is it,
The authenticity. So you said, you have felt better and more alive and, my words, more attractive. Like everything, the more you have embraced your authenticity. And as we're talking about how much is enough, my question for you is there enough authenticity? Like when we think about seeking our own authenticity, having the courage to
Yeah.
be ourselves, is there enough authenticity, self-authenticity?
It's a practice, Dan,
Yeah.
because listen, I'm on the dating apps, a 68-year-old size 16 woman on the dating apps with a head full of gray hair doesn't exactly fit in the dating app profile, especially men in my demographic. So many are reaching back for that last chance to prove their virility by walking around with a younger woman on their arm. And I am single. I am not dating right now, and it's not by choice.
Mhm.
I'm a lot. I'm a lot, my authenticity,
Yeah.
my self-awareness, it's a lot. And I'm not
Yeah.
looking for somebody to approve of me, to validate me, or to complete me in any way. If I'm single for the rest of my life, I am enough. I
Mm.
am more than enough.
Yeah.
And so if you want to join that circus, come on board. There's
Right.
room in the tent. But,
Right.
I'm not going to be less of myself for anybody the rest of my life. Just not
Uh,
going to do it.
I love it. You do not suffer fools, and I have empathy for what I imagine some of the men who come on dates with you with certain ideas and how those go. Actually, that could be a whole show in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
I know you're kind, but
Yeah.
you're not going to put up with the bullshit, right? Like you're
No,
just life's too
I've
short
had
for that.
5-minute dates.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
had very polite 5-minute dates. Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
as
And
you,
again, I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's good role modeling for my children.
Hmm.
I want everybody to feel that they are enough and that their opinions and their feelings matter, and that they should not sublimate them for anybody else, even in partnership. Because I do believe you're a better partner. I mean, I was married 30 years. I have some authority on this topic
You do.
to say that, yes, being in partnership is not always getting your way. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying being your authentic self and being true to your feelings and your own truth has everything to do with success in your relationships as well.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to pause so everyone can soak that in.
I'll take a sip of water. How about
Yes. And we keep being on the same page because every time I want to I have an idea of where to go, you say a word which takes me right there, and that's success. You talked about
that?
success in relationships with how much is enough. How much is enough success, right? This is a loaded
Oh,
topic
yeah.
in
Oh,
our
yeah.
society. So tell us your ideas about success.
Well, there is a chapter, How Much is Enough Money? Because listen, most people, when you say success, they think about what am I worth? What do I have? And we all know those people who never have enough. I don't have a big enough house. I haven't gotten enough promotions. My bank account's not flush enough. My stock market, blah, 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 blah. What do they have in common? They're chronically unhappy and they're unhealthy. And that's just fact. That is just fact. And I tell this story in How Much is Enough Money about a dear friend who was the executive producer of a very powerful, very well known television show and had a very young child and was in a crazy production meeting talking about some vapid major movie star when she gets a text from her nanny showing her son romping through the sunflowers at a beautiful local farm. And in that moment, she realized, I'm getting this wrong and I need to reevaluate how I'm spending my time. And that was like in November, December 2019. Little did she know She left her job like January, February 2020. And then we
She
all know
crushed
what
it.
happened
She
after
crushed
that.
it. She said,
So
yeah.
not only did she have like become a stay-at-home mom, but she actually was able to teach her then 4-year-old to read because they were in quarantine together. Her timing was so beautiful as a result of making this one decision and the pandemic. Like, who could have ever put this together? But she walked away from an enormously financially secure, professional, like unbelievable position that anybody in her industry would covet, never looking back and feeling so grateful that she was able to make that. So, how much was enough money for her? It didn't matter, because what really mattered was she saw how quickly her son's life was unfolding in front of
Mhm.
her, and she wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So, isn't that success? That's a definition of success, far and above what her career was saying.
Right. So really it's what our definite like finding out what our own definition of success is, not society's definition
Right.
of
Right.
success. Society is actually, I mean, we are part of society, whatever that is, but
Hmm.
society is not like here looking out for us. Society is a whole machine of its own for lots of reasons we understand and don't understand. And so again, you continue to encourage people to go within, to listen to themselves, to ask. And your book is all, everyone questions. There's questions throughout to help people get introspective. These same questions I'm sure you were asking yourself, for us to
Hmm.
go inside and ask, like, how much is enough in all of these categories? And it is a individual answer. It's an individual answer, and it's not for other people to answer for you. I mean, for years, I've worked with very financially successful people where it's like money is the distraction, and we talk about the golden handcuffs for so many people working for these larger industry and corporations, and they'll say like, I'm so miserable, and yet they've got me because they're offering me this and they're offering me this, and again, I go back to courage. It takes so much courage to do what seems like the unthinkable, where everyone says, "What?" And inside, you're like smiling with relief because you made the right decision for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is such a personal journey. I mean, it's so personal, right? I mean, you get to decide how much is enough. How much is enough, you know, money? How much is enough, time that you're going to put in as a parent, as a partner, as an adult child? That's a chapter of life that a lot of
Mhm.
people my age are struggling with, because, I have a very close friend whose mother is 98. And she's the sole caregiver of her mother. And I was the sole caregiver. I am one of 4 kids, but I was geographically closest to my parents, and led them through their final chapter of life as well. And you do have to ask yourself how much is enough, and quality of life over quantity,
Mhm.
quality over quantity in everything, money, prestige, you know,
Yeah.
longevity. I mean, honestly, longevity, right?
The hardest part about the how much is enough question is, back to us wanting certainty and the people who want an answer, a right answer, is there is no right answer. That is, to me, that is the hardest part of really answering this question, because it is so individual and
Right.
it changes over our life course with our life experiences.
Yes,
Like, right,
yes,
you
and
had a big house. Now you are in, a
a New
flat,
York
a
apartment.
New York apartment, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and it is enough, as you write, like,
Yes,
that is enough.
yes.
That wouldn't have been enough for you
No,
20 years
no.
ago, 10
That's
years ago.
right, that's right.
Yeah.
And I really hope that nobody reads this book thinking I know what's best for them, or that I can define how much is enough for you, the reader or the listener. I love my Audible book, because I just feel like it truly, the book is my
It's
voice, and
you,
then
yeah,
the
it's you.
audiobook is
Yeah,
literally my
yeah,
voice. So
yeah,
I just really want people to feel inspired and maybe a little provoked
yeah,
by what I've written or said, but not ever dictated to, or told what to do. That was never my goal with it,
yeah,
ever.
yeah. I did listen to your book, so you were talking to me for several hours. So
Mm.
um, I know you a little more than you know me at this point. I've spent a little more time with you one way, that way. But
I
I want to
love
say,
that.
yeah, for everybody to hear Claire talk to you, like she's truly speaking to you. And I just
Oh,
feel
yeah.
it's, I love reading books too, but there's
Yeah.
something about listening to the author talk to you, particularly in an interactive memoir like this, because it feels interactive
Oh,
in a
that's so
way.
great. It
Yeah.
means so much to
Yeah.
me. Thank you. Yeah, someone said you're a great road companion. Like for a road trip, this is a great book. And I said, it really is because I'll never ask to go to the bathroom and I won't eat your snacks. So take me with you on your next road trip, right?
And we know you're a foodie, so
Yes,
that would be a
yes, of
little more
course.
precarious if you
Yes.
were there. And I also
Yeah.
think the questions. This is a great book for your partner, your kids, your friends, right? I know you have so many book groups. It's like these are the things to discuss with people because through discussing and in friendship and in partnership, things become more clear too. With like,
Oh,
as people
yeah.
have different ideas about how much is enough in all of these categories. And as you talk about sex, we should be talking about that with everyone. That is a key part of a relationship to know what people's enoughness or not enoughness is in that category, for
Right.
example.
I mean, it is I would say one of the greatest compliments I got is a woman came up to me and said, "This book has become the template for deepening my relationship with my mother. We had such a shallow relationship, and as hard as I tried, I couldn't get her to go deep. And
Mm,
she's getting older, and I know the days are numbered, and I don't want her to die without me really knowing her and understanding her. But we couldn't figure out how to get there. And we both read your book. We had a little book club of two and we've been asking ourselves the questions that you pose in the book. And these are questions they would never come up in our dinner conversation, you know? Just imagine like the waspiest of waspy families that just we don't talk about these things, you know?
mhm,
And so having the book as kind of the conduit really changed the dynamic of their friendship, their
mhm.
relationship, and their mother daughterdom. And it just made me so happy to know that
Yeah.
the book is a vehicle for that.
It is a vehicle, and as you said, I just want to reiterate, it is without judgment. It is without this is what you should do. It is a conversation and an invitation to be thinking about these things.
Yeah, and hopefully to continue the conversation. You know, I've got
Mhm.
this Facebook group, How Much Is Enough, on Facebook, and people are always posting really provocative, interesting things that they'll pull off of social media or comments or questions they've had in conversation. And I really want to keep the conversation going. So I
Mhm.
hope that this is the spark for something bigger.
So I want to wind down with what Jean told you. Jean, who you met on your HGTV tour, a man who had cancer and a proud scar on his head. And he said to you, the best thing about terminal cancer, no more bad days.
Yeah, I get teary every time I think about that man. Every time, like just listening to you, I'm getting a little verklempt because that clicked something. I mean, I just never forgot it. And I think if there's any takeaway in this book, it's you wake up in the morning, it's enough.
Mm,
Thank you, Jean. You know, it's enough. So beautiful. Yeah, thank you for reading the book.
yeah.
Can I just thank you for that? And for absorbing these key moments that I think really knit together the story, the concept of enough in a way that I don't think has ever been done before. So
Mm,
thank you for helping me spread the
mm.
word about that.
Oh, it's truly my pleasure. I was going to ask you what what the final take home is that you want people to know, and I think one, you just said it.
Mhm.
If we wake up in the morning, it's enough.
Yeah,
The rest is like, oh gosh, like it could be that simple. Like the rest is gravy or
right.
whipped
Let's just
cream or
start there.
cherry or
Yeah.
whatever. All the foods you love. Like yeah, wake up in the morning, being able to get out of bed, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
being able to
Yeah.
walk, being able to talk, being able to love.
And then go from there. You
Right.
know, who am I going to love harder today? what am I going to accomplish in a more profound and self-satisfying way?
Mm,
How am I going to create beauty in my life? How am I going to connect with nature? All of that begins the minute you open your eyes and you make the choice that today can be enough, you know?
mhm. Yes.
There
There it
you
is.
go.
There it is. There it
I
is.
know.
Claire, tell everyone, you already talked about the Facebook group, your book. You
Yes,
do lots
yes.
of things. You marry people. Like, just tell
Yeah.
everyone all this stuff.
Well, go to
Yeah.
claireberger.com. You'll get the whole skinny on stuff. But the one thing I'm really excited to promote, if it's all right, I mentioned I'm co-facilitating a program in Tuscany this
Mm,
September called Kick Back and Create in Tuscany. And it's not about getting a book published. It's really about, through creative writing, finding your deeper and more self-examined self. And what better place to do it than in Tuscany, for crying out loud? Over a bowl of fresh pasta every day.
I was
Come
gonna
on,
say that's
people.
like one of
Yeah.
your favorite places in the world with
Oh,
your favorite
yes.
foods in the world.
Yes.
So
Yes.
good on you for
Yes. So
yes,
join me. Yeah,
yes,
join me. And you can get all the info on claireberger.com.
awesome. Well,
Thanks,
thanks,
Dan.
Claire. This was wonderful.
My pleasure. Truly, my pleasure. Thank you.
Claire is such an amazing person. What a role model for us. Open, authentic, affirming, and living with honesty, transparency, and with a smile. And I'm sure, like me, you found her view on life and her presence just contagious. Here are 5 key takeaways from this wonderful conversation. Number 1, reinvention isn't optional, it's inevitable. Claire's life, from comedy clubs to corporate keynotes to memoirs, is proof that pivoting is not just possible, it's necessary. Stay open, stay curious. Number 2, enough is a moving target. Whether it's time, money, love, or success, what's enough is deeply personal and ever changing. The power lies in asking the question, not having the answer. Number 3, humor heals and connects. Claire reminds us that humor isn't just entertainment, it's resilience, communication, and survival. It's how we disarm others and ourselves. Number 4, authenticity takes practice. Embracing your full, unfiltered self isn't always easy, especially in a world of expectations. But for Claire, being real is non negotiable and freeing. Number 5, purpose over perfection. Claire's mantra is clear: perfection is a myth, failure is experience, and purpose is the fuel. When you know your why, everything else falls into place. Thank you for listening to this inspiring show. Please send this to everyone you think will benefit. Thank you for being a part of our community, for subscribing, and for your 5-star reviews. They really do make a difference. And as always, I will leave you with this guiding thought. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. This has been a Peters and Rossi production. Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan is produced by Laura Rossi. Our engineer is Phil Rossi. Theme music is Uplifting Folk by Awesome Music. Artwork by Kelly Dwyer. Follow us on social media at Dr. Dan Peters. For more information, visit drdanpeters.com.